The elves thought they were so clever, weaving spells of unbreakable defense. They hadn't accounted for one thing: human ingenuity and a healthy dose of applied thermodynamics. Prepare yourselves. This isn't your grandmother's high fantasy anymore. The shimmering emerald forest of Eldoria had been a legend whispered across the galaxy for centuries. A planet teeming with raw magical energy, home to the ethereal elves, masters of arcane arts and fiercely guarded by a magical barrier that repelled even the most advanced starships. No one had ever breached it. Until now. Admiral Kerrigan, a woman whose steely gaze could melt titanium, stood aboard the Dauntless, flagship of the United Earth Star Force's newly formed Xeno-Tech Division. The Dauntless, a behemoth of polished chrome and bristling weapon emplacements, hung in geosynchronous orbit, a stark contrast to the organic beauty of Eldoria below. Report, Captain Reynolds. Kerrigan's voice was low, but carried the weight of command. Admiral, the Elven barrier is holding. Particle weapons, energy cannons, even our gravity-based disruptors are ineffective. Their energy matrix is too elegant, too finely tuned for brute force, Reynolds replied, his voice tinged with frustration. Kerrigan nodded slowly. Elegant, but not invincible. They are relying on what they perceive as an unassailable advantage. They haven't faced human innovation. For centuries, humanity had been the underdogs of the galactic stage, always a step behind in technological advancement, always scrambling to catch up. But they possessed something the other species lacked: a relentless drive to learn, adapt, and, when necessary, exploit the unexpected. The elves, with their innate magic, had dismissed humanity as primitive, insignificant. They had made a fatal mistake. Dr. Sharma, report on Project Chimera. Kerrigan looked at a younger woman with short blue hair. Anya, a brilliant physicist and the driving force behind the Xeno-Tech Division's wildest projects, appeared on the main view screen. Her eyes sparkled with manic energy. Admiral, the equations are holding. We've successfully replicated the base principles of Elven magic. Not the art of it, mind you, but the underlying physics. And, more importantly, we found its weakness. And that is, Kerrigan prompted, entropy, Admiral. Or, to put it more simply, heat. Anya explained. Elven magic, at its core, is about perfect energy conservation. They channel ambient energies, manipulate them with incredible precision, and create these complex constructs, like this barrier. She gestured to a shimmering diagram on the screen. But that perfect conservation comes at a cost. The barrier is incredibly sensitive to thermal fluctuations. Think of it like a perfectly balanced house of cards. A slight change in temperature, a tiny vibration, and the whole thing collapses. The room fell silent as Kerrigan considered the implications. So, you're saying we can bypass their magical defenses with heat? Precisely, Admiral. We just need to apply it in a precise, focused manner. And that's where Project Chimera comes in. Anya grinned, a touch of madness in her eyes. Project Chimera was an audacious gamble, a fusion of human technology and reverse-engineered Elven magic. It involved modifying existing laser weaponry to project not just light, but precisely tuned thermal pulses, overloading the barrier's energy matrix at specific points. Days turned into weeks as Anya's team worked tirelessly, calibrating the Chimera weapons. The elves, oblivious to the impending doom, continued to observe the Dauntless with arrogant indifference, occasionally sending warning signals, which Kerrigan ignored. Finally, the moment arrived. The Dauntless positioned itself directly above Eldoria's capital city, Elysia, a breathtaking metropolis of crystal towers and flowing waterfalls, all powered by the planet's magical ley lines. Kerrigan stood on the bridge, her face illuminated by the glow of the tactical display. Tension hung heavy in the air. Dr. Sharma, are you ready? Ready as I'll ever be, Admiral. Firing sequence initiated. The Dauntless shuddered as the Chimera weapons came to life. Instead of the familiar flash of laser fire, a series of almost invisible pulses rippled outwards, impacting the Elven barrier at predetermined coordinates. For a moment, nothing happened. The barrier shimmered, undisturbed. Then, a faint crack appeared, like a spiderweb on glass. The crack widened, spreading rapidly across the barrier surface. The air crackled with unstable energy. The Elves, realizing the imminent danger, unleashed their counterattacks. Bolts of pure magical energy slammed into the Dauntless's shields, causing the ship to rock violently.
"Shields at 70%!
Reynolds yelled, his voice strained.
They're adapting their spells! Their magic is becoming more potent! Keep firing! Keep firing!
Kerrigan barked.
We're close to breaking through!
The Chimera weapons continued their relentless assault. The Elven barrier, once impenetrable, was now a chaotic mess of flickering energy and shattered runes. With a final, earth-shattering explosion, the barrier collapsed, leaving Eldoria vulnerable. A collective gasp filled the bridge as everyone stared at the view screen, mesmerized. They had done it. They had breached the unbreachable. "Prepare for planetary assault," Kerrigan ordered, her voice devoid of emotion. "Drop teams, secure the ley lines, and establish a perimeter. And remind our soldiers, we're not here to conquer, we're here to understand, and to ensure this never happens again." The landing craft descended towards Elysia, filled with heavily armed Marines and teams of scientists, their faces a mixture of apprehension and excitement. As they landed, they were met with little resistance. The Elves, stunned by the sudden collapse of their defenses, were in utter disarray. What followed was not a brutal war of conquest, but a carefully controlled operation of research and containment. Humanity was not there to simply take over Eldoria. They were there to study its magic, to understand its secrets, and to develop defenses against future magical threats. Anya Sharma, leading a team of scientists, delved deep into the mysteries of Elven magic. She discovered that the Elves, in their arrogance, had stagnated. Their understanding of magic was intuitive, based on tradition and ritual, rather than scientific principles. They had never bothered to analyze the underlying physics, to understand the limitations of their own powers. Humanity, on the other hand, approached magic with the same analytical rigor they applied to all other scientific disciplines. They dissected it, measured it, and reverse-engineered it. They did what the Elves had never considered doing. They turned magic into a science. However, not all Elves were willing to accept defeat. A faction led by the Archmage Theron, a powerful and fanatical Elven leader, refused to surrender. He rallied his followers, vowing to drive the humans from Eldoria and restore the planet to its former glory. Theron, realizing that brute force was useless against human technology, turned to a different tactic: sabotage. He and his followers infiltrated human research facilities, disrupting experiments and stealing vital data. They targeted Anya Sharma, recognizing her as the greatest threat to their cause. One night, as Anya worked late in her lab, Theron ambushed her. He unleashed a barrage of magical attacks, trapping her in a cage of pure energy. "You cannot understand our magic, human," Theron sneered. "It is a gift from the gods, not a toy to be dissected and exploited." Anya, however, remained calm. "You underestimate us, Archmage," she said, her voice steady. "We may not have your innate abilities, but we have something you lack, the ability to adapt." She pulled a small device from her pocket, a miniature thermal disruptor, based on the Chimera technology. With a flick of her wrist, she activated it. The cage of energy flickered and dissolved. Theron stared in disbelief. "Impossible. How did you—" "We learned from you," Anya said, her eyes gleaming. "We just did the math." A fierce battle ensued. Io, armed with her makeshift weapons and her newfound understanding of Elven magic, fought bravely against Theron. Although she was outmatched in raw power, she used her scientific knowledge to predict his attacks and exploit his weaknesses. Just when Theron was about to overwhelm her, Kerrigan and a squad of Marines burst into the lab. They opened fire, forcing Theron to retreat. He vanished in a swirl of magical energy, vowing revenge. The incident shook humanity. They realized that they could not afford to underestimate the Elves, even in their weakened state. Kerrigan ordered a tightening of security and a renewed effort to understand and counter Elven magic. Under Anya's guidance, humanity continued its research, developing new technologies to harness and control magic. They created magical shields for their starships, enchanted weapons for their soldiers, and even learned to heal injuries with magic. They also established a new relationship with the Elves, offering them knowledge and technology in exchange for their cooperation. Slowly, the two species began to rebuild their relationship, forging a new alliance based on mutual respect and understanding. The story of Eldoria became a legend, a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability. It was a reminder that even the most formidable opponents could be overcome with the right combination of knowledge and determination. It was humanity's dirty trick, using science and logic to beat the world of magic.